Hello and welcome to What Goes Around. My name is Deb Grant.
And my name is Eamon Murtagh, and I welcome you to What Goes Around as well.
Today on the show, Eamon has a conversation with Tippa Irie, reggae MC, absolute legend of the genre, originator of the fast chat style, and the first ragga artist ever to chat in a Cockney accent.
We're going to talk to Justin Lewis about his book Don't Stop the Music and ask him if all this pop trivia is really rotting our brains. Before that, me and Deb are going to get a little bit maudlin about moving again, because it's really hard. But hey, let's pod.
Let's pod.
Dear Deb, please tell us what goes around in your little world this week.
My little world. Well, I feel like I haven't spoken to you in quite a long time, Eamon. I feel like we haven't caught up in quite a while.
I miss you terribly.
I miss you too. I mean, you moved to Bristol, so basically you're dead to me.
Yeah, I started it, in fairness.
You did.
But then you moved too, so that's like, that's
I did move too. But like, man, I remember when you moved to Bristol and you were talking about how tough it was. You'd been in London for such a long time. You'd established yourself there, and then being in a new city, I could tell that obviously you loved Bristol. And I went to visit you last Christmas and we had a lovely time, and I can see that it's a really lovely place. Many record stores. I could see that it would be a good fit for you. But like, man, having experienced a life move this year myself from London to Manchester after 20 years in London, fucking hell, you weren't kidding about how difficult it was. Oh my God. And it's weird. I think I had just completely taken for granted all the roots that I'd put down in London, the network that I'd created. I mean, I'm very lazy, as you know, so I'm quite difficult. I'm quite bad at maintaining friendships. Like, I really do put in minimal effort.
Yeah.
But
you haven't spoken to me for 3 months.
I know. Case in point, exactly. And I can't even say I'm busy because I have no friends here.
but only ignored, but I'm ignored for no one else. That's harsh.
Oh my God, it's been so difficult. Like, I miss my friends, and I really took for granted the DJing network that I built up there. Because when you think about it, like, London is a huge place. Every second person is a DJ. So to get to the point of playing the gigs that I was playing at, the lovely venues that I had aspired to play at, to throw all of that in the garbage has been really hard. And
that was a wake-up call for me. I thought it would be tricky, but it's a different level, isn't it?
And like, New Year's Eve always felt like total bullshit to me. It was like, whoever wants me to play, I'll give it away to the highest bidder. But last year I played at the Social, which is one of my favourite bars, probably my favourite bar in the whole world. And I said to the proprietor there, I will play at like 8 p.m. for an hour, and then I just want to hang out here and enjoy myself. And it was one of the nicest New Year's Eves I've ever had. And when I see them posting about their New Year's Eve party with all the new fancy new fangled DJs that they have playing there, I want to just crawl up in the fetal position and cry. Like, the FOMO is unreal. It physically hurts me, the FOMO, which is funny because I don't like going outside. I feel like if I was in London or if I had a gig, I'm sure I'd be complaining relentlessly about it. But I still want to do it. I still want to be invited.
Yeah. You want the cake, and you want to eat it, and you want to leave it on one side for later.
Yeah, I do. I want leftovers as well. I miss it. I think it's an ego thing as well. There's sort of a status attached to sort of climbing the DJ ladder in a place like London. And, Manchester already has its own established network of DJs here.
This is what I've realised by going to another place, that everywhere has other people living.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, you don't care that I'm from some London big shot.
And
you don't even know who I am.
They've got their own thing going on. They've got plans.
Yes.
And we're not invited yet.
Oh, exactly. Like, I decided at the very last minute that maybe I would like to play a little gig on New Year's Eve in Manchester. Sent out some inquiries, just like absolute tumbleweeds. I haven't heard anything back. I'm just going to have to go and attend a gig, a venue as a punter, like an absolute pleb. I haven't done that in about 15 years.
They won't make you queue, will they?
Oh, they better not. If they make me queue, I'm going home.
Yeah, quite right too.
Yes.
I know what you mean, because I've DJed on New Year's Eve, maybe 20 years in a row, and the last 3 times, including this one, I won't have had a gig.
Yeah.
The worst one was the first year I moved down here. we had a friend down, and she brought her 2 kids. So there was just like 3 kids in the house and 3 adults. And it's coming. I was really, really hankering after my old life because I'd had quite a miserable start to life in Bristol. And I just remember DJing mad drum and bass to 3 under 10s and thinking, what? How the mighty have fallen, Jesus.
That sounds like something out of Phoenix Nights or something.
In fairness to them, they were giving it large. They were really going for it. Do you know what I mean?
You've got a receptive audience, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's just... That's just one aspect of how hard it's been. Like, it is just to move, you know, I moved to London when I was 19. Like, I had no established life particularly. I had friends and stuff in Dublin, but it really felt like I was just like starting again with a blank page. Moving to Manchester at the age of 38, you know, I have baggage. And like, I'm not just talking about the ridiculous amount of clothes and records and crap that I brought up here with me, but like, to be starting again at this age is such an intimidating prospect. I mean, I'm very lucky because I moved up here to start this amazing job. The team are amazing. Everyone is lovely. I went to a colleague's house for Christmas. You know, we had a lovely time. But yes, it's just, man, it's a real shock to the system to be. I feel like a really, really old, crusty hermit crab who has been forced to move into, to find a new shell.
You're like one of those hermit crabs that's found like a plastic bottle.
I'm inside an old Coke can.
You know what I mean? You're not even in a proper shell anymore. You're just out there buffeting around. God, what a life.
It's not quite right. It's a tricky one. So yeah, I appreciate your pain. I mean, Manchester's a great city. And we talked about the potential of me moving to Manchester ages ago in this programme. Like, there's great record shops. I'm already mates with loads of the people who work in the record shops. And very lucky that it's such a friendly place and that people entertain my nonsense.
Place, I have to say.
You know.
Very friendly place.
Yeah, so...
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Listen, I'm 3 years into Bristol now, and it's beginning to right itself. I'm feeling a little bit more together.
3 years is a long time. I don't have that much time. 3 years. I'm getting old.
It's a long time. The thing is, when I was younger, like when I was like, you moved at like 19 and kind of stayed in one place, but I lived all over the place. I lived in Manchester, I lived in Portsmouth, I lived in this place, that place. You know, I was bopping around, Oxford, all sorts of places. So I had this thing in my head that moving was just like, go somewhere else, get drunk somewhere else, meet a load of people, and suddenly you're in a big crew. That's great when you're 20, but you know, as life goes on, you realise that people who actually have things you can share with that are your age and stuff and understand your vibe, they are now not going out. So you're just not going to bump into them. And I think the people you're going to bump into are young, dumb and full of cum, and they've got more energy than you could even remember having.
Oh yeah, and I just can't relate to these people in any way. I mean, I have, like, genuinely, I've made friends just from chatting to people. I've made a friend who I just bumped into at the cinema one day, and now we're pals. But that's just a Manchester thing, I think. So I'm very lucky. It's getting easier, but it's more just like, I feel like I've had a lot of I don't want to say status, because that sounds really wanky. It's not like anyone knew who I was in London, but I feel like...
No, but I know what you mean, because you have your little runs, you know what I mean? I didn't realise how great my little scene was, but I had like a setup where basically... Well, I just worked every weekend. Yeah. You know, and I could work 3-4 days a week if I wanted to, but it was easy, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had some really, really cushy gigs at like the Standard and Spiritland and all these nice fancy places, but I also had some really great, you know, spit and sawdust things like the Howling Hops and even just little pubs like the Lorison. They didn't pay much, but they were nice places to be.
And you go in and everyone knows your name.
Everyone knows your name, and they're all like, "Oh, it's great to see you. What you got in the bag for us today?"
Yeah.
And now they're just like, "Who's this down from London?"
Yeah. My fragile ego can't take it.
It's tricky. It does get better. It does get better.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got quite a gregarious kind of job anyway. In that.
Yes, I thought you were going to say personality, and I was about to correct you there.
No, I still remember.
Common misconception.
Never confuse talking a lot with being interested in what you say.
Rude,
yeah. But listen, it's gonna be all right. It just takes a little time, and eventually you'll find your little niche. And the thing about it is, it does take longer. Like when I was a youth, you know, 6-7 months, and I'd probably know everyone around. And now it's just like, you know, that's doubled at least. So
I might have to take up drinking.
Oh, I'm thinking about giving it up. But yeah, that helps.
It
That's
does.
the thing. When you're young, you see, you make friends with people very quickly because you lose control of yourself very easily. And then you just wake up in someone's kitchen going, oh, how did I get here? But you can't do that at 50.
No. But you know, one friend I've made, this is weird actually, just as an aside. So there's a guy I used to talk to when I was like 14, not in a weird way. I was like 14 and he was at university, so he must have been 18. And we met in a like Yahoo chat room or something, and we used to talk on MSN and just like swap MP3s. It was just purely a joy of music thing. And like he sent me music that I still listen to, people like Phyllis Dillon. He sent me a load of Tim Buckley stuff, like weird old electronic music. And he lives in Manchester. You know, I was speaking to him when I was a very young teenager, and then obviously we lost touch. And then he saw on Twitter that I had got this job, and he recognized my name. And he saw that I was coming to Manchester, and he messaged me, and I was like, fuck, like it's probably like 20 years since we've spoken to each other. Yeah, now we're pals. I went out with him and his mates the other night. We went out to some gigs in a pub and had a lovely time. Yeah, so
there's no scary like weapon talk.
No.
Great.
Well, not so far. But those seeds that I sowed with music back when I was 14 are now paying off. So that's quite a nice little story.
Well, that was
unless he does turn out to be mental, but so far so good.
There's always time.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, Twitter did that a lot for me because I met a few people via Twitter who are in the area, and so that has been very helpful. But now Twitter has become like an absolute war zone.
Oh, it's a cesspit. I didn't think it would get as bad as people predicted, but what are you going to do?
Oh, I've got to go. The thing is, like, now, so I'm on Blue Sky now, and I quite like Blue Sky because it's got this invite system. So you kind of, there are a lot of people who I know from the old days.
Yeah.
But no one is in the habit of just opening up and chatting.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Is like I got this like muscle memory in my phone hand, which just opens up. But every time I see the little X, I just go, oh God.
I know.
It's like when you had a favourite club, and then a new management comes in and just starts getting it all wrong.
Yeah. That is one of the other awful things about getting older. You realise how transient joy is. That's my thought for the year.
I think let's just turn it off there. We'll crawl into a dark room and wait for life to end.
I was crawled up in a dark room before I spoke to you. I crawled out just to speak to you. Don't make me crawl back in yet.
I'm gonna turn the light off and shut the door. It occurred to me the other day that I know that Joe Dolce's Ah Shut Up Your Face prevented the epic single Vienna by Ultravox from reaching number 1 in 1981, and that the one-hit wonder Will Powers only reached number 17 in 1983, despite the fact that Nile Rodgers, Carly Simon, Todd Rundgren and Stevie Winwood were all in the credits. And yet, I don't know my wife's phone number. Well, not off by heart, anyway. So it seems a good 60% of my brain is tasked with remembering odd little facts like this, and not a day goes by when I do not pick up another useless and yet utterly irresistible music fact. So the question is, am I wasting my life? Or do these little nuggets of joy do something or have some sort of unnamed higher purpose in my life? To find out more, I've asked writer Justin Lewis to talk trivia with me, and Justin's the perfect candidate for doing this because he has just written a book called Don't Stop the Music, which catalogues thousands of handy little facts in a handy diary form. So I'm very pleased to welcome Justin to the podcast. Hello.
Hello, Eamon. Lovely to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, no problem. Your book is great. Pop facts, basically, they're like breakfast cereal and tea and, sleep. And they're just a regular thing in my life. And they take up a lot of my life. Why did you decide to write a book about sort of lots of random little facts?
Well, I'll be absolutely honest straight away, which is that I got approached to do it, which says a lot about my reputation as somebody who collects this stuff. I always think of this as a bit like going to a pub quiz, and you have to care about knowing the answer to the questions. There's a lot of bad questions you can be asked, but with a lot of questions you just kind of think, well, I don't really care. I mean, one of the nicest write-ups I got for the book when it came out was the Arts Desk. Bernard Hughes in the Arts Desk wrote, it's about making trivia meaningful. That was a really nice thing to read because that was the aim, was to try and do something that had a kind of I wanted it to be entertaining. I wanted it to, but not at the expense of having some sense of history and context. And I like to think that if you were to take all of the entries and put them in absolute chronological order, you would pretty much get the history of pop music.
Something I quite enjoyed about the book is that there are a lot of this was recorded on that day, and the single came out here, or so and so did this then, and that's good fun. But then there are also like more kind of random facts. I love this one. In 1990, a Florida rock station, WKRL, began a 2-week marathon playing Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven on repeat non-stop for 24 hours. That's the sort of trivia that my brain needs.
Yes. I wonder how many people, how long people lasted with that. Did they tune in and think, yeah, I can put up with this going round and round and round?
Well, it's an interesting thing. There's a record shop in town here in Bristol called Prime Cuts, and Mike in there is the man who he was DJing one day, and he was playing Toto Africa, and he said to his mate, "This is such a bulletproof tune. Whenever I play it, just people like it." And I hate it personally, but the general public love that record. And so he said, we should just play this all night. And so they did. They did this charity thing where they played back-to-back copies of Toto Africa all night, and they sold out, and people went mad for it. And I think now he gets a faraway look in his eye if you mention the song. Let me just ask a little bit. Have you always, obviously, I presume you've always loved music, but have you always been like a kind of historian of it? Have you always been finding little facts and squirreling them away? Since
I was about 10.
Yeah.
Because I can specifically remember it. 1980 was the year, and the reason for that is that so I grew up in a house where there was lots of music. My father had quite a few records, but it was only when I got my own room, my own bedroom, when I was about 9, 10, there was a room that they'd been working on, and suddenly there was a room, and I had a different room to my brother at that point. So I moved in there, and one of the things that happened was I got my own radio. But it meant that having my own radio meant that suddenly I had a kind of control over what I would listen to, and I was very free in what I listened to. So I listened to all sorts of things, all times of the day and night, all this kind of thing. And gradually, from watching Top of the Pops, listening to Radio 1, the Top 40 itself at the time was a really, really big deal. Added to that was the fact that I'd started buying smash hits that year. By extension, I started reading the music press furtively in the newsagents because I couldn't afford to buy all the music press. And then I bought the Guinness Hit Singles book. And so gradually, I became one of these annoying people who I could do that thing of, what was number one on this day. All of that happened in a very, very short space of time. And it's funny you were just mentioning there about Joe Dolce, and I remember at the time hearing that Joe Dolce record, weird enough that it was number one here, but it had been number one for I think 9 weeks in Australia. I don't know if you ever looked at Joe Dolce's website, but like...
no, Justin, no, I've never looked at Joe Dolce's website.
Are you getting a clue as to like how...
you take your work seriously, don't you?
I just. But it interested me in the sense that, you don't get... It's his career, he's mainly a poet. But that's the kind of thing that interested me about pop music, is that I was trying to abandon this idea of there being a canon of what people talked about with pop music.
And one of the things I like about the sort of facts you've gathered together is there's a good mix of like kind of fairly standard ones and some quite quirky ones, and I think in a way that's kind of where the fun is, isn't it? I love finding the odd little facts that kind of you don't know quite why you're attracted to them.
I think though the internet has made a lot of this stuff coalesce, because I think the main thing about the internet is it's connected all these memories. We can go and revisit things. I think we do a lot more than we used to. I think that's part of the problem with the internet, is it's kind of become this bin of nostalgia as well. So we kind of are always looking for that stuff. But the thing that interests me is I'd love to know what people who are 20 make of it now, because they must be listening to music in an entirely different way.
The charts are a really big factor in this, because for people of a certain age, the charts punctuated our lives week by week. And, we have a section on this show called Phonographic Memories, where we ask people to, elicit a memory that comes back when you hear a song. And a lot of my memories are stored like that, and they're kind of bound up quite a lot with the charts. Certainly in my younger days, I was very much bound up with the charts. And so when I see like lists like this, it does take me back, and it puts an order in my brain. It like reshuffles some of the memories and enables me to think about not just the song or the artist, but the time and thereby who I was at the time.
Well, I think in the early 80s, when I started to be really, really interested in all of this, it must be said, I think, that the charts, and I'm not going to be one of those people who said, the charts were, the music was all better when I was young or any of that sort of thing. Because I don't think it's possible to be that objective about it. I just don't know how it... But I will say this, I think the charts were unusually broad in those days. Bob Stanley has often said that Top of the Pops or the Top 40 was a bit like the news in terms of pop, because it was like, here's what's going on, and some of it you'll like, some of it you might not like, some of it you'll just find baffling. They would play pretty much anything. So you would have Tony Blackburn would say, that was soft cell, here's Saxon, and they immediately and those things, because you wouldn't hear the Saxon record on daytime radio particularly. You might hear it on Tommy Vance or something, but you wouldn't hear heavy metal on daytime radio. To hear left field records like, Oh Superman springs to mind, a record that was nearly number one. That's, which I bought, and that record is an extraordinary example of something where it's in amongst the top 10. It's 8 minutes long. It plays all the rules.
As well, 3 television channels and commercial radio was still very small. Do you know what I mean? So it was very much the BBC thing. And it's funny, we mentioned Joe Dolce, and now we've mentioned Oh Superman, and both of those and the Floral Dance, I seem to remember, were Terry Wogan projects, weren't they? Terry Wogan on his Radio 2 show just hammered those tracks and basically got them to a point where they had to be played on the chart show or whatever, and then suddenly everyone got this it was like a fever dream when you think about it, with this ha 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 song. Why? The Floral Dance, why?
Is that true that Terry Wogan played Oh Superman?
Oh yeah, he banged on about it for ages, and then it became like a real kind of running joke, and he used to do all his letters and stuff from the readers, and he had a big old correspondence about it. But he had this kind of strange position in that he's on the second most popular network there was, talking ostensibly to older listeners who kind of saw it as a bit of a joke and quite good fun. Do you know what I mean? And I think then when it gets that kind of airplay, those songs, it's not like, you can't really ignore them. They get in your head. And so it becomes this thing that then spreads its wings, and as soon as it's out there, more and more people get involved. And how on earth could you ever predict that any of those 3 records would ever break into the top 40, the 40 best-selling tracks in the country? It's bonkers.
Radio 2, certainly in the early 80s, they had quite a young controller, David Hatch, and he was very interested in the idea, because Radio 2, this is a thing that's forgotten now, in those days, Radio 2 and Radio 1 both broadcast the chart show. You would get Radio 2 records, as it were, in the charts. I mentioned this in the book, but Golden Brown by the Stranglers was David Hamilton's record of the week on afternoon Radio 2, and which is a very... Although, in a sense, it's kind of, that would completely suit a Radio 2 audience, that record. But because of what the Stranglers represented and what they had come from, it just felt like a really strange mismatched.
But yeah, and of course the fact that here you are in the bastion of the BBC playing a song about shooting up smack.
Well, indeed, yes. I don't know if Diddy David.
Yeah, there was a lot of those sort of references kind of went under the radar a little bit, didn't they?
But that's another thing. I think that this thing about pop music. There's always this debate going on about whether pop music is art or entertainment, and I've always thought it's both. Maybe this is the reason I'm interested in the facts of it, is that I think the other options are to just say you really love it and it really moves you, which is perfectly acceptable and understandable, but it doesn't always make for very interesting conversation, I think. And actually, I do find it interesting to know, for example, where a band came from and what their circumstances were when they started to make records, because you can hear it in the sound of the records. The Ramones' Blitzkrieg Bar, the chant from that was influenced by a Bay City Rollers record, Saturday Night, which was not a hit in this country but was #1 in America.
I guess we're all trying to make sense of the world, and these little points of context, they kind of add to the whole feel of everything. When you kind of grown up listening to music and kind of being absorbed by it, as most of the listeners of our show have done, I think finding those little connections always remains a joy. And even now, I still enjoy finding a little pop nugget. I don't know, like I said, I think about 60% of my brain is this stuff. Yeah, and what I really want to ask you is, have I wasted my life? Or is this giving me meaning?
So have I. If you have, so have I. I don't. I wasted it too. I don't know. I think it depends what do you think you should have filled it with instead?
Good answer.
I mean, what are we supposed to do with our brains? I think all knowledge kind of has its place somewhere.
So I think we can safely say that knowledge in itself is a good thing, and we shouldn't really judge about what that knowledge is. So we should be happy that we know all about this pop stuff. This book is a lovely way to learn more about it and to make connections in your brain. That gives us a little bit of endomorphins. These are all good things. Let's not feel bad about it. And people can rely on us to be that fifth of the pub team quiz that's going to kill the music round after this book.
I think so. I hope so.
What we're gonna do right here is go back.
Way back into time.
That's right.
Name that tune. Get up, everybody. Name that tune.
Our guest today is a pioneering reggae MC whose unique style has not only changed the UK reggae scene, but helped lay the foundation for British lyricism across the board. Anthony Henry, aka Tippa Irie, is a forerunner of the new black British sound of reggae that went from domestic basements in South London to top of the pops and world recognition. Tippa's fast chat style not only brought speed and eloquence of delivery to the fore, but crucially gave credibility to the sound of British MCs speaking in their own accents, referencing their own experiences, and creating their own unique styles of music. What started in the reggae dancehalls opened up opportunities for generations of authentic black British voices that went on to develop new genres such as lovers rock, jungle and grime. And over the last 40 years, Tippa Irie has built a lasting legacy through his solo work and collaborations with the likes of Black Eyed Peas, Alexander O'Neal, the Far East Band and Congo Natty, aka the Rebel MC. Now at 58, Tippa remains at the top of his game and has published a new book called Stick to My Roots about his incredible journey through life and the music business. And we're genuinely delighted on what goes around to welcome a bona fide reggae legend to the show. Hello, Tippa Irie.
Hello, sir. Amen. How are you? I am blessed. Thank you.
Oh, well, we are blessed too. It's so nice to talk to you, and great reading your book. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I mean, it took me 2 years.
Whoa.
2 years to put it together with my friend Mark Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
Mark was, I guess you could call him ghostwriter.
Yeah.
He helped me put the book together. We sat and did interviews upon interviews upon interviews, going through the chapters. I mean, we'll speak about that, but yeah, just we just sat together. I think it was in the I don't think it was in the lockdown.
Really, yeah.
When I thought that would be the perfect time to crack on with it, because I couldn't do any gigs.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I know that well. So I think there's a lot of books came out of lockdown. It's a good thing.
Yeah, positive. One positive thing about it is that some books came out, and a lot of studio work got done also, because obviously you're stuck in the house. You start writing songs and doing dub plates for sound systems all over the world. So it as much as it locked me down, it still kept me active.
Yeah. And I was reading the book yesterday, and looking like right from an early age, you were always busy in your mind with lyrics, weren't you? That was always something that was just buzzing around you.
Yeah, I mean, I was inspired by you, Roy, and by Big Ute and Dillinger, just the M.I. Roy, all these guys from Jamaica, because my dad brought his music with him from Jamaica. So growing up, my dad actually had a huge shubbing blues dance every Friday and Saturday. So I was just kind of brought up within that musical culture of listening to these guys. And so I just wanted to be like them, you know what I mean? And started to imitate them, impersonate you, Roy, and, wake the town and tell the people, Dennis Al Capone, these people. And yeah, so me and my mates used to just mimic them, and then after a while, you start to kind of like, you're getting quite good at this. And people started to tell me that, listen, you need to start letting people hear you. And that's what I did. I went to talent competitions. I went to all the local sound systems. And then obviously my dad had a sound system in the basement. So I had the perfect place to practice and learn. And then my dad also used to rent the rooms out to bands. So every so often, we had groups like The Real Thing, You to Me Are Everything.
Yeah,
Just do this
classics.
song. Them guys, they used to rehearse in my dad's, I think they're from Liverpool.
That's right.
But
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they came
54.
down, when they came down to London, they used to come into my dad's basement. There was another group, I think they were called the Shimmerans, or quite a few bands used to use my dad's little space. And so I was just engulfed with music, man. I think it was just my destiny, because my dad had his sound. Then I went to cousins had sounds, friends had sounds. I was just surrounded by the sound system culture. So I think that's what kind of made it my path and my journey and my destiny to become what I've become today.
Yeah, well, I mean, you certainly have made your mark, and it's one thing to have had the career you've had, but I think what's really interesting for me is that artists like yourself and the Much Missed Smiley Culture and a few others, you changed the scene, because as that first generation of Black British descendants of Caribbean parents, you were the first wave that started chatting in your own accent, talking about your own experiences in London and in England in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were inspired by Jamaica, but after a while, we said we're not from Trenchtown, or from Tivoli Gardens or Jungle or whatever. We're from Brixton and Streatham and Stockwell and Peckham and Lewisham. So we need to kind of, we speak Cockney to our school teacher. And then when we get home, we speak in the Raban Jamaican patois to our parents. So so people like Smiley Culture, Papa Levi, Asha Senator, all these guys, we just wanted to have our own identity and chat about, Rupert the Bear and stuff that we were watching and experiencing. And then, obviously we'd speak about the Brixton riots, the New Cross fire, Mongrels, 11, and all these things. So we'd speak about the things of the day, but then obviously there was only, there wasn't all this TV, there was only two
channels,
channels, and then so we used to just watch Michael Jackson cartoon, the Osmonds, all these things, and Rupert the Bear and Paddington Bear and all these different little, and just talk about basically things what we were seeing and what we were going through, whether it be the skinheads, the Teddy Boys, so it would be racism, Enoch Powell, all Margaret Thatcher, all these things. We just we was like coming to one of our dances. We were like the news at 10, because people used to listen to us because they knew they'd get informed about whatever was happening.
Yeah, I mean, reading the book, it's obvious that you lived through some really tumultuous times. I mean, it's hard to understate how racist London was, and the police force especially, and schools were essentially to black people. In the 70s and 80s, it was a different world to the one we're in today. There's still racism, but it was so overt, and there were so many really serious events, like say New Cross Fire and the Big Brixton riots, and more than one set of riots as well. And you lived through all of that, and I think what I find really interesting is, even though you reference that and talk about those things, you seem to always have brought a lot of optimism and positive thinking to your scene and to the music you do. Even when it is serious, there's something uplifting about the way you chat and the message you want to give.
Yeah, because, well, if you think about it, when people come out, they don't want to be depressed. They're already depressed. You know what I'm saying? They're already feeling the strains of the system, and it's still happening today. The minute you walk through the door, if you get in your car, just driving your car, you just, a bill comes, and it whether it be a speeding or parking or something's happened or you whatever, you end up, it's like they've turned you into a criminal and you haven't done anything. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, not much has changed. You know what I mean? If anything, from now, it's like getting worse. So unfortunately, that is the choice you make when you live in Britain or in countries like Britain, because there's a lot of the places that I go around the world, you hear the same cries. Whether you live in California, you live in Canada, you live in New York, it's similar traits what you find from you live in the big city. And us growing up in Britain, it was no blacks, no Irish, no dogs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So our parents had to go through all of that negativity, and we as young kids growing up, I never had the latest Adidas Gazelle and Adidas Samba, and when all of my peers, they had all of that stuff. I made the football team in my topper shoes, I didn't. Even though my dad had a little corner shop, so everybody was my friend because I had sweets, but I didn't have. My trainers had no name. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we know what it's like to be able to survive on the bare minimum, and hand to mouth and whatever. But my parents always made sure, that there was, well, my dad was a greengrocer, so there was always food and stuff like that, But growing up in Britain, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. When I left school at 17, I did a labouring job, and I did that for about 6 months because I was no good. I was no good at mixing cement and carrying cement bags and stuff like that. And I did a little apprenticeship, but it wasn't much. And I said, this is not for me. So when I realized that I had a talent, I'm saying, you know what? I'm going to try to make this work for me. And, luckily it did.
I was interested as well reading the book where you were talking about, although your dad had the sound system and all of that sort of stuff going on all the time, it was also very strict. You were brought up to, definitely doing what you were told and not getting in trouble. How did that sort of cross over with the music? Was music something that they still encouraged, or was that something was like,
No. I mean, my mum was like, "What are you doing in the room writing those lyrics?" So she was like that.
Yeah.
And then my dad left to go back to Jamaica when I was 15. So when it kind of really, I got really into the music as like, I'm going to take it seriously. My dad was already in Jamaica, and my mum just kind of, she just said, well, look, you're not sitting down here. You got to get a job. So when I left school on the Friday, she had a friend called Joseph Folks, God rest his soul, that gave me a job. So I was earning £26 a week, and I did that job for, like I said, for 6 months. I wasn't no good. And then I made my first tune when I was 17 for Sir Lloyd, a tune called The Opposite. So when I did that tune and my mum heard that tune, she goes, "Oh, you sound really good, son. Maybe you should really try and take this music thing seriously. I still think you should get a job."
Yeah.
But
that's never going to change for a parent, is it?
No. But I think you should take it seriously. Yeah. So, that's what I did. So I was kind of lucky in a sense because I had Drummy Zeb from Aswad and Tony Gadd from Aswad. They produced my first ever tune.
Well, that's a great start, isn't it?
That's a great start. For me, it was through Sir Lloyd. And then I did a few live albums with other MCs, DSYC, which is Dick Shepherd School Youth Centre, Volume 1, 2 and 3, which was done with Sir Lloyd. And so those albums went out and they did very well. So after that, the Saxon sound just really kind of started to lift off. So I kind of was on Sir Lloyd and Mikey Dread sound system, and then Nasty Rockers. Those were local sounds from Brixton. And then while I was on Mikey Dread sound, Mikey was the brother of Cecil Rennie, who owned King Tubby's sound. So Mikey brought me to his brother and said, "Yo, you need to listen to this. He's good." So I just started to follow King Tubby's sound and join up with them. And then, I think I was doing a talent competition in Brixton at the Ferndale Sports Centre. And Musclehead and Dennis Rowe from Saxon, they were there. So they heard me smash up the place. So they just said, "Yo, come. You need to come and join us." So I'm like, "Well, what are you offering?" So they said, "We got £10. So I'm like, okay, that's a bit better than £3. What I was getting at Tubby's. So I kind of went over there, and then I saw Maxi Priest over there, Smiley Coach over there, Papa Levi, Daddy Colonel. There was a lot of entertainers that were there that used to come to their dances that I thought, you know what, I can flourish if I stay amongst these guys because they're going to push me. And that's what it was. We went over there and it was like an academy.
Yeah. And it was a big move as well because, the sound system culture was very local, wasn't it? And it was a bit like, it's like playing for your local football team and then getting a transfer to...
Yeah, it's like me.
I nearly said Tottenham there, but I know I shouldn't say that to you.
No. It's like leaving Arsenal and going to play for Tottenham.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not really...
the Sol Campbell of reggae.
Yeah, the Sol Campbell, exactly. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing because I was kind of like the rising star of Brixton, and then I was leaving from Brixton and going to join a Lewisham sound. But what I liked about it was youthful. It was brothers that was more my age group. And, one of my friends, Raymond Roberts, Daddy Rusty, was with me. So we went over there and, Colonel was from Clapham. So, it wasn't so bad, and then we went over there, and it was just a good vibe. It was a good vibe, and then we kind of just made history together because everywhere we started to go, it started to sell out. So a lot of people made a lot of money out of us, apart from us. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But it was still good because it was like the platform was set. The groundations, we set the foundation and the groundations for all of the success what happened after.
Yeah, and this was hard work, wasn't it? Because, like I say, I mean, there's the £10 luring you along, but it's also, you played a lot during the week.
Yeah, it's for the love. It wasn't that the £10 wasn't nothing. You know what I mean? It was nothing. We had drink, we had our herb, we had girls. So it was fun. It was fun a lot of the time because we were like little pop stars within the community. So it was also a lot of motorway driving. 3-4 nights a week we were out. I miss my kids, them going to this and kids going to that. I've got 4 kids, so a lot of them I'm making up for a lot of that now. I just come back from Thailand with my 2 boys. You know what I mean? And we went over there to have a holiday. My son's now 40. I had him when I was 18.
Wow.
So I took him and my other son on holiday to Thailand for 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So I missed out on a lot of school stuff with my kids because obviously I was always on the road, and you're following this dream and this, it's living. It's not like I was idle. I was out there working.
Yeah, totally. In the book, you describe like living in South London as being, a little enclave. You were surrounded by black peers, but then around that was a very white and quite antipathetic world. Yeah. What was it like for you getting out of that locality? Because as soon as you started moving out into the country, it must have felt very different going up to Nottingham or Manchester or wherever. As soon as you started getting around the country, how did that feel to you as a young man?
Well, it felt good. I mean, in regards to wherever we went, obviously there was still our communities in those towns. So when we went to Birmingham is a second city, so there's a huge Caribbean community, and in Manchester, Chapeltown in Leeds and Ventstry, played at Ventstry in Huddersfield, and all these places, So for us, it was like home from home because we would go into these towns and the people would be waiting for us, and be excited that the sound van has come because they know, that we're going to be there. So, you kind of leave your home, you might go to the venue, enjoy the dance, do your work, and then you get back in you might meet a girl, you go and hang out, whatever, or you might not, and then you come back, you drive back down. We used to drive back down in the mornings, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd be on the motorway coming back down. There was a few friends that's lost their lives, few accidents along the way because, we didn't have money for big hotels and all of that stuff. So it was like the bare minimum, you know what I mean? But it was for the love of the music and what we were getting out of it. We knew that we were building something special, and you could feel it, Well, if you go to a place and you have to queue up to get in to see yourself, or,
I love that story in the book. That's
you know what I'm saying. So
you weren't even on the guest list, Tippa.
No, but everyone's just like, but we're coming here to see you. What are you doing out here with us? And that's how the dances were sold out, or they were packed. You know what I'm saying? It was funny times, but good times and enjoyable times. But we just went with the flow. Wherever we went, we just dealt with it. We never really had to, experience, I guess, the out of town if you like, racism or such, because we would just go into the town. At that time, there was no, sat nav and whatever.
Yeah.
We used to just go into a town and head to the city center, and then sometimes what we would do, if we you'd have the A to Z, but if you still was struggling to find where you had to play, we would just go to a taxi firm, and say, right, we'll follow you. This is the address. Take us there, and then we'll just follow the taxi, go to the gig, and then and get there that way. And so it was good times, man.
Yeah, you were obviously like totally steeped in the music. So I guess we ought to talk about some of the music that inspired you and lifted you up at that time.
Yes, sir.
Your first selection, I mean, I've got to say, for a start, brilliant 3 songs. I mean, absolutely fantastic. I loved listening to all of them. And Dennis Brown was maybe one of the greatest reggae vocalists there's ever been. And you've chosen the track Revolution by him. Tell us a bit about how you found that track and what it means to you.
Well, Dennis Brown is my king of reggae. When I was growing up, he was the man. I mean, obviously, because of the finance, what Blackwell put behind Bob, they portray Bob. I mean, obviously, Bob's made, timeless music. But for me, Dennis Brown, the volume of music that he's made, but it's good music, and the songwriting and just the vocals and the man himself. I managed to meet him and been on the same bill as him a couple of times, and he was just exceptional. You know what I mean? And they call him the Prince, but for me, he's the king. And Revolution was just a tune that stands the test of time, and it's still needed even today, because that's the only way things are going to get better for us. But it has to be a collective of us. I can moan and I can go online and moan on my platform, but I need everybody with me to make that change, And so that's why him saying, do you know what it means to have a revolution? You know what I'm saying?
Do you know what it means to have a revolution? And what it takes to make a solution? Fighting against the pressure, ooh yeah. Battering down the pressure, oh yeah. Are you ready to stand up and fight the right revolution? Are you ready to stand up and fight it just like soldiers? Many are called, few are chosen.
At the time, the reggae really was the voice at
Yeah.
that time. It was the thing that was asking for change all the time, and it was the voices that we as white people, that we would hear that on the edges. I mean, in my town, you couldn't hear it anywhere on the mainstream media, but we used to get there's a hill in our town, and you could pick up some of the London radio stations, the Pirates and that, and these tapes would go round, But that voice, that bringing together of people, and songs like this, they made a big difference to people that were spread out and in locations that maybe were new to them, or certainly were new to their parents.
Well, it's needed. It's like the message is in the music, and most of the songs that I've chosen, the message is in the music, because at the end of the day, it's hard. Unity is strength, as they say, for any community or anything, and so we need that first. But when you oppressed by a system, the only way that you can, most people that have that have gone down in history, if you like, or whatever, they've had to fight. You know, if you look into Bob Marley's music, it's, you know, all they want really is just people to be fair. You know, just be fair, just be loving, just be caring, just think about your fellow man, and that's all we want. That's all what people really want deep down. They just want a fair crack of the whip, be fair, be honest, be true, you know, and give everybody the same opportunity to get through and to survive, because, you know, initially all people want to do is feed their families and have a, you know, and have a decent life, you know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. And they keep doing things to oppress their own people. And I just don't know why, you know, why would you want to hurt your own people? I mean, you know, well, look what's going on, you know, right now is just war everywhere. There's still war, and they're doing that. You know, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? Why are we fighting all of these wars? There's a reason behind it. They don't need to do it, but they, for whatever reason, you know, whether it's depopulation or, you know, or whatever that you want to call it, it's happening. So we need a revolution, bro. we need a revolution to stop the madness.
Well, I feel like it's the perfect segue into your second choice, because it's called Stop the Fussing and Fighting.
There you go.
Which is by my favourite reggae band, Culture, who were just extraordinary, weren't they? And the vocals on this track are spine-tingling. And they were a really, really seminal band, weren't they? Like the 2/7's Clash album especially was something that really changed everything. How did you come across that, and what does it mean to you?
Well, it's like I guess I've chosen tunes where the title kind of speaks.
That's why I said it leads straight through to where we want to go next.
It's like they just kind of like speak for themselves, because that's what, you know. Why? We live in we have a beautiful, I just come back from Thailand, and it's white sand, blue sea, massage, you know, just good food, tranquil. The world could be like that, bro. You know? And this is my sentiments, you know, the world could be like that. White, blue sea, white sand, massage, good food, tranquil, peace of mind, no stress, this, that. But we'd rather be fussing and fighting, you know, for whatever, you know. So when you hear tunes like the Culture tune, you know, that's why these tunes can't die. You know, you play them in our community or in the dance every time, you know, it has that effect on people, because of the quality of the music, for a start, the vocals, the arrangements, but most of all, the content. You know, it's a simple content. Just stop the fussing and fighting. We've only got a short time on the earth. Let's try to enjoy the short time that we had. But these tunes, when I used to be on King Tubby's, was one of the signature tunes. They used to have a selector called Jigs that he used to play, and he just made me fall in love with the tune because he always used to play it.
Jack come down and set us free. Stop these fussing and fighting. the streets, drawing guns at each other for nothing at all. Oh.
You know, those kind of songs, they, like I say, they do bring people together, and especially for the black community at that time, getting those sounds over from Jamaica and hearing them and being able to share that communal experience, and indeed to share it with people who are born and bred here, that was really important. And I was wondering what it felt like for you, because when people like yourself and Smiley Culture suddenly started crossing over and having chart hits,
Yes.
and singing in the London accent, and you know, bringing your local experience, it's not a second-hand thing anymore. This is like the people born and raised here, they suddenly had people like you to look up to. And I think that must have been, did you feel a responsibility for that, or was it just all like exciting and fun and let's go?
I mean, I mean, remember, it was new to us as well. We were just in it. So when you're in it, sometimes you don't realize. It's only when you go to a dance and you see a grown man come up to you and say, yo, you don't know how thankful I was that you were wearing my trainers. You know, you don't know how the significance of how, you know, it's like when you know, when a big man comes up to you and says, like, yo, Tippa, when I came to the dance, man, you had on the same trainers as me. And I felt really proud. I felt really special to all of my friends because Tippa had my trainers on, you know. And it may sound simple or silly or whatever, but it just shows you how you're touching these people and how the whole movement and the thing touch these people, you know what I'm saying? And so it was a special thing, but sometimes you don't realize it when you're in it. It's only after a while. Even, you know, I went out at the weekend, you know, to an event, a black tie event, and it was like 5,000 people there. And every 10 yards I would walk, somebody would stop me, you know, and they would say like, oh, Tip, man, I'm watching you, you know, I'm so proud that, you know, after so long, you're still doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work. You know, the other day, Busta Rhymes made reference that they used to listen to us. So a lot of people were coming up to me and saying like, yo, Tip, you see the American artists, they're starting to, you know, pay homage to you guys and this and that. So when you're at an event and you get that kind of a love and appreciation, it is a good feeling, and it does, you know, inspire you, and it does let you know that what you were doing was good, you know, and left the mark, as you say.
Yeah, and like I said, I mentioned it earlier, but the other thing that was great was that although you were all singing about the problems that you might have at the time and the difficulties of being in Britain at the time, you did it with a lot of humour. I mean, humour seems really important to you and your peers in a way that kind of it wasn't like that for the Jamaicans in the previous generation. It was a very serious sufferation, no smiling at all, you know. But you guys seem to enjoy life a little bit more.
No, we had to, man. We had to, because like I said, it was fun. It was a lot of fun because we were doing something that you love doing, that you would do anyway, regardless of the money. We weren't thinking about money, because if it was the money, I would have went and, you know, studied a bit more and just, you know, and done something else at the time. But it's like now when I'm working and, you know, I might do some dub plates and I earn X amount of pounds in 10 minutes or in 15 minutes, where it's going to take my son, you know, 3 weeks to earn what I earn in 10 minutes or in 15 minutes. But it's all of the 40 years or the 30 years before of hard work that you've put in, so that now I can go and do a dub plate and I can ask for X amount. I can go into the studio, knock it out in 10 minutes, send the files over to the guy, job done. You know what I mean? And you earn XYZ, but it's the work that you put in before on over the years before that's made it more easier for me now
there's
to do what I'm doing.
There's that old expression of like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And
That's right.
I think
That's right.
That's kind of where you're coming from. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's right. That's right. It's not just like it's not a bed of roses.
Yeah.
You know what
But
I mean?
you did come a long way. Do you know what I mean? Like you managed to get all the way out to America. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've basically toured the whole world now. I mean, I think you lay claim to hitting all 7 continents, haven't you?
Yeah. I don't think there's much places now that I've not been. There's a few countries, obviously, war-torn countries that, you know.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to get there right now, no.
No, you don't really want to be heading out them ways there right now because they're not going to be in the reggae music mood. You know, they're thinking about something to eat or where they're going to live or where they can lay their head. But but no, America, all of the states, I've been out there, and Caribbean, most of the Caribbean countries, most of the African, quite a few of the African countries. India was interesting. I went to Bangalore and Pune and Delhi and places like that. Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines, Australia. Found that very racist out there, but it was still good. The people that came to the show were wonderful.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then, but when you kind of go out, you kind of still pick up a lot of negativity, you know, out there. So I had a great show in Sydney, Byron Bay, Perth, you know, Melbourne, Brisbane. All of those places were cool. Japan was interesting.
Yeah, Japan's got a very interesting relationship with reggae, isn't it? Because it's one of those places where, for some reason, it's taken root in this particular spot. And although it's not like everyone's cup of tea, the people that are into it are massively, massively into it. And really, I mean, they really, really love it, don't they?
Yeah, nah, they definitely do. Definitely do. It's like when you go there and you go into a club. They used to have a club called Club Jamaica. And when you went in there, it was like you was in Jamaica. You know what I mean? So no, I think anything that they get into, they really get into it.
Yeah.
You know?
I did love the story as well in the book where you talk about getting over to play the Sunsplash in Jamaica and sort of calling up your dad and not really telling him what's going on. Tell us a little bit about that. You know.
Yeah. No, it's like, remember I told you earlier that my dad left to go to Jamaica when I was 15, 16. He just got fed up of the life in England and he was ready to go back. He knew that we were kind of okay over here. My mum stayed because she knew that there was more opportunity for us over here. So that's why she stayed. And then obviously when I went and, you know, and started to carve a career for myself, you know, Hello Darling got into the charts and it became a very big tune in Jamaica. So when I flew out there, there's this show called Sting. So the promoter of Sting, which was like, he flew me out to Jamaica to do Sting, which was like a big event, what they kept, I think, on Boxing Day every year in Jamaica. And so obviously I told my dad that was coming, you know, and I'm going to be doing a show, but he didn't really like Kingston, you know, so he was very, very, you know, weary of Kingston because he didn't really like Kingston. But I said, nah, man, you got to come. You know, you have to come and this and that and whatever. So basically, he met me at the hotel, and I took him to the concert, and I said, just go round the front and just watch from the front. So then he saw me and Pat O'Banton rush out, and I could see like the surprise in his face, like wow, this is who I left to come out when he was 16, and now he's 20. I think I was 19 or something like that, and he couldn't believe that his son was this performer like this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a star. But yeah, literally, he couldn't believe it. So he was in shock, and he just said, he just come after the show, he just come and hugged me and said, "Boy, I'm really proud of you, son, man." So that was I think that was more of the better feeling than any award that I got.
Yeah, I mean, I could, when I was reading it, I was just thinking that, because he comes across, the way he described, as quite austere in his own way, and perhaps a little bit more serious, trying to keep your feet on the ground.
Yes.
And it must have been lovely then to go out and show him that you'd done it. You'd actually
done it. Yeah,
made
exactly.
it. And obviously he reacted to that in a very positive way as well, which is lovely.
Yeah, you had to, because, well, at the end of the day, I'm in Jamaica. I'm not in England. He's in Jamaica, and somebody's actually flew me out to do what I'm doing. So, that in itself was an achievement for me.
Fantastic. Well, let's move on to your last choice, which again is an absolutely fabulous record. Pablo Gad, Hard Times. Tell us about this. Well, it's just a brilliant piece of music, isn't it?
Yeah, the production, I think the music itself was produced by Black Slate. The guys that done Amigo. I think they were the actual producers of the tune. But like I said again, another self-explanatory tune, Hard Times. It's basically what we were going through a lot of the time for a lot of the people in the community. You know what I'm saying? So this tune was just a tune that I used to just love to dance to. We just this tune used to just come on, and everybody was on the dance floor, because in those days we used to skank. We don't, it was dancing, but we used to call it skanking, So we used to go to Jashaka and those type of sounds, those root sounds, and they used to put this tune on, and everybody would be on the dance floor. So it's just a tune that resonates with me, and then the DJ part of the tune, because the vocal was wicked. But then when I was a youth, I used to bun Cali weed in a Rizla.
Say when I was a youth, I used to bun Cali weed in a Rizla. Used to bun it in a Rizla. Now I am a man, I just a bun Cali weed in a Chalwa. I just a rub it in a Chalwa. When I was a youth, I used to live a 9 mile. Mama said me shop a fee go by card live a rile. I make a mistake by coconut. I she go for kill me in a hard time style. This a hard time style. Bang 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 bang. This a hard time style. Bang 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 did la. This a hard time style. Bang 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 did la. This a hard time style. So when I was a youth, I used to bun Cali weed in a...
It's funny for me because I'm not very much younger, but a few years younger than you. And my experience of a lot of those tunes, the first time I heard them was in rave tracks. And they would sample little bits of those tunes.
Yes.
And that particular moment, the Bun Cali weed in a Jawa, that was just an anthem. And then it was brilliant to then go and find out more about it and find out where it come from. And I'm very interested in this idea that people who aren't familiar with the world of reggae and cutting dub plates and doing versions, when you run these big sound systems, getting that exclusive was what it was all about, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's getting a tune, because a lot of the time the guys them used to have to go to Jamaica and get an exclusive D Brown, exclusive, Gregory Isaac, or, and it was like, now the dub thing is more, a lot of the sounds can play say like an artist like, I don't know, Chronics or whatever, there might be 3-4 sounds with the same dub plate. Back in the days there, you know, it was very exclusive. So Coxsone might have a tune, or it's like Saxon don't have no tenor saw dub plates, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Blacker from Coxsone, he made sure that at the time when tenor saw was over here, he made sure that we didn't get none. You know what I'm saying? At the time. So it was like, you know, but the exclusivity was very important, because obviously when you're clashing, it's nice to be able to play a tune and say this can only be played by Saxon sound.
And these were physical things as well. I mean, nowadays it's like, you know, you've got a computer, you burn down your WAV and you send it off. But in those days, like, people would actually have to go to Jamaica, get the thing recorded, come back, press it on a dub plate. And then even when you've got the dub plate, it's not even finished then, because then you take it to the dance and someone like yourself will do something over the top of it that makes it exclusive. Or you'll cut a vocal into the dub that is not available anywhere else. I mean, that kind of exclusivity and the whole... I mean, I always find it an interesting thing that I don't like to think of music as being competitive, personally. It's one of the things. I think music is for everyone. I think we should all share and enjoy it. But I bloody love a good sound clash, you know?
Yeah, but it's competitive, but it's within music. It's like, it's a competition, you know? So it's just like, you know, it's just like any competition, you know, football teams, they play to win. You know, and somebody's got to lose. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, music is just sound clash or dub plate culture is just another form of competition. But it's music, you know, it's just another art form within the music. So we have to just embrace it and work with it. And you know, I give thanks for it, because it keeps me... It's putting food on my table. Yeah.
And certainly you've had a great deal of success over the years doing those things.
Yeah.
What sort of I know you obviously write all the time and you've got lots of lyrics lying around, but there's a certain amount of freestyling and inventiveness that's required to win a sound clash, isn't it? Because you have to react to what the opposition are doing as well, don't you?
Yeah. That's right. And, you know, a lot of the times it's banter, you know, so it's a lot of banter and it's spur of the moment. So, you know, you need a good MC that, you know, knows how to think on his toes, basically. So that person has to be able to think on his toes. And then the selector needs to be able to think on their toes. So it's people that are sharp, you know, you need people that are sharp with the tongue, sharp with the being able to play a tune at the right time, because that can win you the event if you play a certain tune at the right time, because somebody might make a speech that they believe that you don't have this dub, or don't believe that you have no comeback or no answer, and then you play a tune at the right time to answer whatever they came forward with, and then that will win you the event. You know.
And again, you know, one of your traits certainly is like the sense of humour and the way you take the Mickey in quite a genial way. It's always it's never derogatory.
You know.
Yeah, you're not a disser, are you? It's not something that's in your nature.
You know. I mean, it's not. But you know, you do what you do. You know, if
you
they want, you do what you have to, and if you know. And, you know, when they pay, they get to play.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hope you keep doing it for many more years.
Thank you, sir.
It's a lovely book called Stick to My Roots by Tippa Irie. And I recommend to all the What Goes Around listeners that they go out and listen to that. Thanks so much for coming on today, Tippa, especially after your travel marathon to get here.
No problem. I'm gonna go now and get back to work, but it's all good. Thank you. They can link me up at tippairie.com.
Yes, mate, we will do that. And best of luck with all your future endeavours. And thank you so much for talking to us.
All right, Eamon, no problem. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Tippa. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Super love. Oh, nice love.
We make this podcast for you because we like you very much. We hope you like us too. And if you do, you can show that by sharing this podcast with a friend, sharing it on your social media pages, telling the world, telling a mate, WhatsApping it to your mum, or if you really, really like it, please leave us a review. That's the least you can do for us, to be honest.
Cheese pan at the bar. Oh yes, the have all, and the have not. You will buck up on the hard time. We'll buck up on the hard time. Do you really wanna know about the app that's never been told?